Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive.
Hello, everyone.
Today, we've got a fresh stack of sources straight from July 3rd, 2025. We're going to pull out the top stories, give you the insights you really need,
I guess that's right.
cut through all that noise.
Right. It's about finding those important nuggets, connecting the dots for you, the listener.
Okay, let's get into it.
And what's always fascinating, I find, is how things that seem totally separate, global diplomacy over here, maybe a local project over there, they actually weave together.
Yeah.
They paint a much clearer picture of what's really going on. That's the goal today.
Definitely. Okay, first up, the global chessboard. A pretty big diplomatic moment.
Yeah.
The Prime Minister's visit to Ghana, his first bilateral visit there, actually, and he got Ghana's second highest civilian honor, the Officer of the Order of the Star of Ghana.
That's quite something for a first trip.
It is. And they signed some important agreements, too. Plus, get this, he was welcomed by children singing Hare Rama, Hare Krishna.
Wow. That cultural reception, along with the honor, it really signals something more than just, standard bilateral ties.
Right. What do you think it signals?
Well, if you look at the bigger picture, it feels like part of India's broader strategy, deepening ties in the global south.
Ah, okay.
And it connects, I think, to PM Modi's upcoming BRICS trip. The whole idea of fostering a balanced, multipolar global order.
Using soft power alongside those alliances.
Exactly, especially when you think about Chinese influence in Africa. And it's interesting, isn't it, that Xi Jinping isn't attending this BRICS summit?
Yeah, that absence definitely adds a layer to the whole dynamic.
It does.
Okay, shifting gears now, but still on that international stage, the India-Pakistan ceasefire, it's back in the news.
Oh.
Yeah, India's external affairs minister came out quite strongly, actually, or rejected former U.S. President Trump's recent claims about, his role in it.
Ah, right, I saw that.
The minister clarified it was all down to direct talks between the DGMOs of both countries, the Director Generals of Military Operations.
And that clarification is key, isn't it? It really asserts India's own agency in this.
Definitely.
It pushes back on anyone trying to rewrite how it happened, suggesting it wasn't external mediation, but those direct military channels.
Makes sense. And speaking of international groups, the QA weighed in too.
On the Pahalgam attack.
Yes, condemning the terrorist attack there, pushing for accountability.
But without naming Pakistan directly, I believe.
That's the interesting part, yeah, the nuance.
Exactly. It's that diplomatic tightrope, isn't it? Condemn terrorism collectively, but maybe keep some channels open.
A delicate balance.
And the QAD also announced something pretty significant on rare minerals. Cooperation there.
Right, aimed at challenging China's dominance in that sector. So economic strategy playing a big role, too.
Absolutely. It's a key part of their whole engagement.
Okay, now here's something that sounds pretty major. The U.S. reportedly stopping arms supplies to Ukraine.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Apparently because of shortages in their own domestic weapons stock.
Which, if true, is huge. It's not just about supply chains. It's about, the industrial capacity of a superpower.
Raises serious questions.
It really does. About their ability to sustain support, about their strategic reserves. It could force Ukraine and its allies to, rethink things. Maybe look elsewhere for supplies.
A potential domino effect.
Could be. And sticking with the U.S. for a moment, President Trump's also been active. There's this proposed 60-day Gaza ceasefire plan.
Which Hamas has conditionally accepted, right?
Conditionally, yes. That's the key word. So complex talks likely still needed.
And he also announced a pretty historic trade deal with Vietnam.
That's right. Vietnam now paying a 20% tariff on goods to the U.S. and 40% on transshipment.
Wow. That's a significant shift in trade policy, reshaping those partnerships.
It really shows how these internal pressures, domestic stock levels, and then these big global economic moves, they're all happening at once. Leaders juggling military, political, economic balls all the time.
Meanwhile, back here on the sort of cultural front, the All India Sin Workers Association, AICWA, wrote to PM Modi.
Okay, about what?
They want a renewed ban on Pakistani YouTube channels and celebrity Instagram accounts.
Ah, the ones that were restricted after Pahalgam but are apparently popping up again.
Exactly. It just highlights how tricky managing that information flow and, I guess, cultural influence across borders still is.
It's a persistent challenge, definitely.
And a couple of other big international pieces. The Dalai Lama made a strong statement.
About his successor.
Yes, declared the successor will be chosen purely by Tibetan Buddhist traditions, explicitly excluding China's involvement.
That's a powerful assertion of spiritual autonomy, isn't it? standing firm on that.
It really is. And then news from Bangladesh, former PM Sheikh Hasina sentenced to 6 months jail for contempt of court.
Right, that's significant political news from the region.
And a worrying report, too. 3 Indian nationals apparently kidnapped in Mali by groups linked to al-Qaeda.
That underscores those ongoing security risks in certain parts of Africa. A lot happening globally.
Definitely. Okay, let's bring the focus back home to India. Politics, governance. First, a scheduling note. The monsoon session of Parliament dates have changed.
We'll just get it.
Yeah, it's now July 21st to August 21st. Was originally meant to end August 12th.
Okay, so longer session. Suggests they've got a pretty packed legislative agenda planned. Lots to get through.
Seems like it. And politically, the BJP is getting closer to picking its new national president.
Right, they needed appointments in a certain number of states first.
Yeah, the constitutional requirement is 19 states, and they've now appointed 20 state presidents. So that hurdle's cleared.
Right.
And Hemant Khandelwal is the new BJP state president for Madhya Pradesh, part of that ongoing internal shuffle.
Got it.
Now, shifting to inter-party stuff, AAP, the Alzam Admi Party, made an announcement about Bihar.
Oh. Are they joining an alliance there?
Actually, the opposite. They announced they will contest the Bihar elections, but explicitly said the India Bloc alliance was only for the Lok Sabha polls. No current alliance in Bihar.
Interesting. So alliances formed for national elections don't automatically carry over to the state level?
Apparently not in this case. And this kind of feeds into that whole ongoing debate about the Congress Party's high command, you know?
Oh, yes. What happened there?
Well, Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge said the high command would decide on the Karnataka chief minister, even though he's the president.
Right. Which seems a bit odd.
Exactly. It prompted BJP's Tejazi Surya to joke about the Congress high command being a ghost.
Huh. Well, it does highlight that ambiguity, doesn't it? Who's actually making the final call?
It really does.
And that raises a question for you, the listener, right? When leadership decisions seem a bit opaque, what does that tell us? You see a party president deferring to this high command?
Suggests a very centralized structure.
It does. Which, can bring stability, maybe, but it might also stifle regional leaders or just confuse people. It shows that layer of complexity behind the headlines.
Yeah. But interestingly, despite all that talk, Karnataka CM Siddaramaiah came out and said he will complete his full term.
So a direct assertion of his position, regardless of the high command talk. Fascinating dynamic.
It really is. Okay, let's move to some more exciting development news. Haryana government's got big plans. They want to build a Disneyland in Gurugram.
Disneyland? Really?
Yes, earmarked about 500 acres near Pachgaon Chowk in Manasar.
Wow, 500 acres. That is ambitious. That's a massive project.
Huge.
It really speaks volumes about their plans for boosting tourism, economic growth. Think of the jobs, the infrastructure needed.
Absolutely. And they also want to elevate Surajkund and Gita Mahotsav to global event status.
So a concerted push to make Haryana a major tourism and cultural destination.
Seems like it. And sticking with infrastructure, but maybe slightly smaller scale, though still impressive, the country's first solar-powered smart bus station. It's in Surat.
Oh, interesting. Smart how?
Well, it cost about 1.6 crore rupees. It's got Wi-Fi, mobile charging, modern lights, the usual smart features.
Okay, but solar-powered is the key thing.
Exactly. And what's really cool is its environmental focus. They're using reused batteries.
Well,
and it's projected to generate 1 lakh units of electricity a year.
That's fantastic. Connecting that to the bigger picture, you see India's push towards sustainable urban development, these smart city ideas.
Yeah.
It's great to see that innovation happening locally.
Definitely. Okay, let's switch over to the world of sports. Action-packed stuff.
Right.
The India versus England Tendulkar-Anderson series, the second test at Edgbaston. How did day 1 go?
Pretty well for India, actually. Finished on 310 for 5.
Solid start. Anyone stand out?
Captain Shubman Gill got 100, 114. And Ravindra Jadeja was still there at the end, unbeaten on 41.
Great stuff from Gill. Good platform built.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of strong performances, especially young talent.
Yeah.
Wow. This 14-year-old, Vaibhav Suryavanshi.
Oh, yeah, I read about him in the U19s against England.
That's the one smashed 86 runs off just 31 balls.
Incredible hitting.
And get this, included 9 sixes. That's a record for an Indian in U19 ODIs.
9 sixes at 14. That's just, wow. Exciting times for Indian cricket's future.
Absolutely thrilling talent.
And beyond these individual feats, there's big news on the policy front for sports. The government approved the National Sports Policy 2025.
Ah, on July 1st, right, replacing the old 2001 policy.
Exactly. And the aims are, well, pretty huge. Make India a top 5 sports nation by 2047.
Top 5 globally.
And also eyeing a bid to host the 2036 Olympic Games.
That is a massive ambition. It really poses the question, doesn't it? How will this new policy actually change things on the ground?
Well, they've outlined these 5 pillars.
Right. Global excellence, that's clear. Economic development through sports. Social development.
Promoting sports as a Jan Endelin, a people's movement.
Getting everyone involved. And integrating sports with education, linking it to the national education policy.
So it seems quite comprehensive, trying to build from their grassroots up, not just focusing on elite performance.
Exactly. It feels like a shift towards a more holistic development of sports culture. We'll have to see how it plays out.
Indeed. And one more sports highlight, badminton. Ayush Shetty won the U.S. Open 2025.
Fantastic. That makes him the first Indian to win a BWF World Tour title this season.
Great achievement for him and for Indian badminton overall.
Definitely.
Okay, let's turn towards education and some other societal bits and pieces. First up, for students waiting. The NTA, the National Testing Agency.
Exam results.
Yes, they announced the CUT-UG result 2025. That's the Common University Entrance Test for undergrads will be out on July 4th.
Okay, that's tomorrow then, as we record this. Crucial date for countless students. Those exams ran from mid-May to early June.
Right, so results day is almost here. And in Gujarat, a nice move, maybe, for students, the state government announced bag-free Saturdays for schools.
Oh, interesting. Trying to lighten the load. Literally. It could be good for student well-being.
Could be. Now, unfortunately, some tragic news as well. An incident at Bakshwar Dam.
Oh dear, what happened?
A tin shed collapsed during the Arte, apparently maybe due to heavy rain. Sadly, 1 person died and 8 others were injured.
Oh, that's terrible. It really brings up that issue of safety, doesn't it, at these large gatherings, especially with unpredictable weather. Proper checks and protocols are so vital.
Absolutely crucial. On a different note, the Vishwa Hindu Raksha Parishad reported facilitating the return of 12 people to the Hindu faith in Lucknow.
Okay, individuals who had previously converted to Islam. Reflects those ongoing social and religious currents in the country.
Yes. And switching to tech again quickly, India's first smart ring with a display has been launched.
With a display. Interesting. Wearable tech keeps evolving.
It does. And finally, just a couple of those everyday wellness tips that popped up in our sources.
Always useful.
One about removing toxins and reducing belly fat by adding a specific ingredient to water. Didn't specify which one, though.
The classic teaser.
And another about habits to avoid that can rapidly increase blood pressure. Practical stuff.
Yeah, and if you connect these little things, the smart ring, the health tips, to the bigger picture, they show how tech and personal well-being info are becoming so much more integrated into our daily lives, right at our fingertips.
Good point. It's all part of that larger flow of information.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay, we have covered a lot of ground today. A really vast landscape.
We really have.
From, intricate global diplomacy, India's huge development plans, those sports wins, right down to smart rings and wellness tips.
It really shows how interconnected everything is, doesn't it?
It absolutely does.
And maybe the big takeaway, beyond just the specific stories, is that constant need to connect the dots ourselves. To look beyond the headline and see how these different forces are interacting, engage critically.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's a final thought, something provocative maybe for you to chew on. With everything moving so fast globally, nationally, how might these new technologies, we're seeing things like AI anchors, maybe even these smart rings, how might they change not just how we get our news, but how we actually perceive it, how we process the world?
That's a deep question, and maybe related to that. As we get access to more and more diverse information sources, how does that challenge us? Does it force us to be more critical, more thoughtful about every single piece of news, every narrative we encounter?
Lots to think about there. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks, everyone.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.